into this, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a couple different things. First off, as a job, I'm an instructor, which means I can't teach in a college, and I'm not certified to teach in a public school. So what do? It's kind of interesting. There are a lot of instructors out there. There's one that I'm going to steal something from. His name's Clint Smith, and he has an old Webster's dictionary, and he has two things marked in there. And I'm stealing this from him, but he has instruct and he has teach. And instruct, real simple, is to give knowledge, to give an order or command, to direct. Kind of like you would do with dogs. Sit. Works pretty good, yes? Did the dog learn anything? Did the dog think about anything? Absolutely not. Now to teach, there's one key thing in here. To accustom to some action or attitude. Teach students to think for themselves. The older I become, the smarter my dad becomes. Anybody ever heard that? Because when I was 17, my father was a moron. Okay? And now that I'm a little bit older, I understand where some of his experience was. And he's also grown also in that period of time. I'm not sure if he's going the right way some days. I don't know if he's here or not. Doesn't matter. If for any family that may be here, don't take anything personal. Because I forgot to mention, I'm an alcoholic. And nobody in my life made me an alcoholic. And nobody's actions in my life made me an alcoholic. I have a disease. And here's how it works, and it just happened. I just did it. Man, talk about the mind. It's believed that alcoholism has this two-part thing. It has a mental part and it has a physical part. And when I have a good day, I'm thinking, man, I'm going to have a beer after work because I'm going to, oh, it was a good day. You know? And then you might have a bad day. And you're thinking, man, I can't wait to get home. I'm going to have a beer. Whew, the boss, all that sort of stuff. And I don't know if anybody of you all ever had that. You ever had one of those days, good day, bad day? You know, and it's going to be just right. Well, with an alcoholic, what happens is they have this thought. And here's how it works for me, man. And I just did it again because I thought of it. The thought of me spinning the top off a bottle of Jim Beam makes my mouth water. I got sober when I was 26 years old. I'm a little bit older than that now. And it still happens. And then the other part of this disease is the physical part. Because once I put alcohol in my system, I have no idea what's going to happen next. I don't know if I'm going to only have 3 and make it home for dinner, or I'm going to get home Sunday and it's Thursday. Nobody in my family is responsible for that. But I met a guy in AA a long time ago. He was sober a month longer than I had been. And we were talking about something during a meeting or whatever it was, and he goes, man, I was growing up as a kid, and he grew up in Washington State, and I grew up in New York. He goes, and I didn't think the car would start unless Dad had a beer between his legs. I was like, you're my brother? I don't remember you at dinner. See, because it goes back to the instruct and the teach kind of thing. I was instructed, don't drink and drive. But I was taught something else. And again, that didn't create me as an alcoholic. But what we tell people and what we show people are significantly different. I got to ask real quick. Is there anybody here who has never, ever, 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 ever in their life had a driver's license? Okay. Ma'am? What's a stop sign mean? So wait a minute, you know what a stop sign means, and you've never had a license? Wow, that's pretty interesting. And what I want the rest of y'all to do now is I want you to think back to when you were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. You're in the backseat of your parents' car or your grandparents' car, or maybe it's a sibling, and the speed limit's 55, and how fast are they driving? Yeah, at least one honest one in the group, right? Yeah. And we know what that sign says with the number on it, but we learned something different. And please, ladies, don't be offended. I'm kind of focused a little bit more on young men, kids more specifically, because I know that young men really struggle to express themselves, to develop themselves, to be an active, equal part of society. There's a side in them that they have to hide, that they have to keep secret, that they can't let people know about. And that's the part that oftentimes causes them to drink. Because they can't let people see that they're fearful, that they're afraid, that they're not strong enough, that they're not fast enough, that they're not good looking enough. And not that these things don't happen to women. But our young men, starting at a really early age, quite often start to develop this self-ID. And we won't get into the psychology of all that sort of stuff. But it then tends to manifest itself in violent behavior, in alcohol and substance abuse, in spousal abuse, domestic partners, sexual assault. There's a whole lot more going on to drug addiction and alcoholism than the pill, the fix, the bottle, or whatever it is. It's those underlying things. And what I would hope, as we think about what the law may do for us, what treatment centers can do for us, what AA or NA or CA or OA. Do you know there's that many A's out there? Yeah, there really are. They got an A for everything. But what I'm hoping that somehow we can affect those people in our lives when they're young, when they can see something different. And that will decrease the likelihood of them repeating what they've already seen. Trying to break that cycle. Because trying to break that cycle when they're 20 probably means they've already got a child that they've influenced. A couple other things I want to mention. I guess about me. I got sober when I was 26. I went to treatment 3 times between the age of 18 and 26. The first time, I was just young and wild and crazy. The second time, I had like this post-adolescent syndrome with alcohol abuse. I know that I had alcohol abuse because I asked the psychologist, I was like, what are you talking about? Show me. And there's a big book, not this one, but there's a big book on his desk, and he broke it out and he showed it to me and explained to me what alcoholism is. And then the third time something happened. Something different happened. Because a lot of those circumstances were the same, but that time I was sentenced to go to AA 3 times a week for however long I was in that program after I got out. And I showed up at that meeting and I was mad. Because they started going around telling a little bit of their story and they were telling my freaking story. And I wanted to know who at the treatment center sent my freaking records over there. And how they found out who I was and all that stuff about me. And I was pissed. And then about 3 days later, I felt at home. It was the first time in my adult life that I felt that I was in the right place, that I actually belonged there. And then about 5 years went down the road. I'm still sober. And I got this thought. Maybe I'm not really an alcoholic. Maybe my life was just so pathetic that the only place I fit in was with a bunch of drunks. See, because that's what I'm talking about with the young men. They got this other stuff going on in here. And if you take away my medicine, I'm going to get sick. See, because whether it was a good day or a bad day, I had that drink. When I had those bad days, whether it was external but mainly internal, it kind of calmed that down. And I continued on that path, back and forth, up and down. And then I reached some epiphany about 7 years sober. And I determined, well, shoot, I'm just going to be sober the rest of my life. I got nothing to worry about. I go to a meeting every once in a while, everything will be good. And I was going to a couple of these meetings, and I kept hearing about people dying. I'm like, what? It's crazy. That dude was like sober 12 years. No freaking way. That guy, it's like 15 years. What happened? Oh, he went back out. He went back out. It's crazy. What? You went back out? I was sitting across the table from a guy. He had an eye patch on. Because he'd gone back out for like the third time in 2 years. He crashed a car. Put the car through the front of a store. Lost his eye. And he's still struggling and wrestling with whether or not he can drink. And one of the old timers, y'all know what an old timer is? In AA, it's somebody that doesn't drink and doesn't die. It's real simple. And one of the old timers says, dude, go do it. You still got a lot going for you. You still got to watch. Because unfortunately, we got to hit a bottom. What we don't realize is that bottom can be just about any place we want it to be. And that's where the education piece comes in. That's where the treatment centers come in. And they can help us see that or understand that a little bit better. I want to read a couple things out of this is a pretty funny story. This is my big book, the Alcoholics Anonymous, not the other big book. They're similar. And it's a little beat up. It's traveled a few places. And see, because getting sober is going to school. You just got to follow the instructions. But what you need is an instructor and a teacher. You need somebody that can just sit. You need somebody who can instruct you on what you're supposed to do. See, I've been going to meetings about 3 weeks. And some guy he decided he was going to be charging me, I guess, whatever it was. And he goes, you got a big book? I said, no. He goes, you got $10? I said, yeah. He goes, give me that. And he hands me this book. He goes, open it up. What do you see? Nothing. And until I scribbled some stuff in here, the first 2 pages are blank. And what he said was, this is what you know about AA. Turn the page. Alcoholics Anonymous, start there. When you get to page 164, let me know. And he gave me some instruction. And then I watched this man, who was only about 3 years older than I was, go through a divorce, lose his children, almost lose his job, and not pick up a drink. And he taught me something. One of the big things he taught me, and I always try and keep the stuff PG, but sometimes those people just, they don't want to be that way. But he used to tell me, no matter what happens in your day, tough shit, don't drink. You don't get to anymore. Because I'm an alcoholic. I've lost the power of choice. When I start to put alcohol in my system, I have no idea what's going to happen. I wasn't a daily drunk. I didn't get drunk every day. Here's where we get to the book. We'll go to page 21. Only because I wrote a note to myself in a meeting one day, and it said, go back to page 21 to find out what's going on. And then I go to page 21, and I read this, and I have to put a little bracket around it, put my name next to it. Because sometimes I forget who I am. Sometimes we get sober long enough, we need to get glasses. But what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker. But at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. And then I write my name next to that, because that's what happened to me. Because I just wanted to be one of the boys. I just wanted to be one of the men. I wanted to stand next to my father Actually, I want to stand next to my grandfather throwing horseshoes with my father and my uncle at the other end and have a beer. Because that's what I learned. That's what men do. But I have something in my system that it doesn't quite work that way. And I think this is true for the addict and the alcoholic. Because the difference is I didn't do drugs. But that's it. I gotta ask, because I'm good at asking questions. Is there anybody here that's allergic to bees? No? It's allergic to bees. Okay. So if you get stung by a big ass bee, what's going to happen? It's going to end up in the hospital. Yeah. And they're going to give him some medicine, he's going to be better. Yes. Well, that's kind of the alcoholic. We drink too much, we get sick, so something's not right. So what should we do? Not drink. Well, what should we do? Not play with bees. Well, you're not going to be a beekeeper. Not a good career choice for someone that's allergic to bees. But here's what the alcoholic does. They get stung by the bee, they go to the hospital, they're like, hey, man, all puffed out, all this stuff, give me something, make me all better, cool. Friday night comes around, I run right back out into the field, I find the biggest beehive that I can, I stick my arm up there, shake it as hard as I can. Because the thought of it was, man, that is going to be such a good time. I get stung about 15 times. I'm really sick. Takes me 2 weeks to heal up. But as soon as I heal up, guess what I do? Yeah, I'm going back out to the beehive. It's the same sort of thing. Seems like a heck of a good time. Regardless of the physical results, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it. Until I recognize I can't do it anymore. And then I don't want to. And then I want to quit. And then I don't want it to ever happen to me again. But I got this thing going on. That I can't get to quiet down. That I can't get to leave me alone. That never allows me to measure up the way I think I'm supposed to. And I got to shut it down and shut it up. And alcohol's the only thing that ever worked. So I had to find something to replace that. And I'm probably going to finish with this. I wasn't, damn it, sorry. I probably wasn't planning on finishing with this because I thought of it. But you got to let things direct you the way they're going to direct you. I have one of my daughters here. I remember how long I've been sober. Every year for her birthday, because her birthday's in December and she turned 1, and I got sober in January. Long time ago, kind of deal. And I was about 6 months sober, so she's about a year and a half old. She's wandering around the house doing whatever it is, and I'm trying to stay sober, and I'm trying to look good, feel good, smell good, all that sort of stuff. But man, I'm dying inside. I'm sitting around the house, and anybody's got kids know that they're just being kids. And to this day, I have no idea what she did. Honestly, though, but I couldn't take it. It wasn't her. It wasn't my wife. It was me. I couldn't take it. And I grabbed her and I smacked her. And I put her in a room. And she was crying. My wife says, you need to go in and talk to her. And I went in, and I could see my handprint on the side of her. Couldn't take it. I got in my car and I left. I was off. See, because we get to a jumping off place in recovery. Not just what gets us there, but we get to this point in recovery where I can't do this anymore. And I took off and I drove. And I stopped at this golf course. And I pulled in, I shut the car off, and I opened up the moon roof. It was nighttime, and I'm looking. I don't smoke anymore. Anybody ever smoke? You ever smoke one of them cigarettes where it's like one drag? You know, the whole thing's freaking gone because you just got that much anxiety in you? Yeah. And I smoked 2 cigarettes and about 3 drags. And I'm looking out there and I just said, I can't do it anymore. In the meantime, my wife had called my sponsor, the guy that gave me this book, and the guy that took me to my first meeting. Said, Jim's lost his freaking mind. I don't know what he's going to do. He took off. And I've been going to AA long enough that they kind of knew my pattern. So one of them went to the American Legion, and my car wasn't there. The other one went to the NCO club, and my car wasn't there. Going to the golf course gave them just enough time to get to where they needed to be, because then I drove to the NCO club. And I remember walking up to the bar, short side, long side, and as I go to slide into the stool, and I look at the bartender, I'm going to order me my usual, a beer and a shot. Some idiot, all the way down the other end of the bar, goes, "You want to talk about it?" And it was the guy that took me to my first meeting. And my life, since that day, has not been the same. Yeah, I had 5 years and I was crazy, and I had 7 years and thought I was going to be healed forever, and then start seeing people die. You know? Well, my life has not been the same since that night. Because you don't have to be a religious person. This is a spiritual program. You just got to believe in something greater than you. Because as long as I'm running around looking at me, I'm going to be sick. And when I reach out and I offer a hand to help somebody, it changes. Because somebody reached out to me. And I'm going to wrap this up. But I just want to thank Mitch and Julie. Everyone that has collaborated to make this happen, because about 3 years ago, I was doing some research on young men in alcoholism and drug addiction and violence, in how they don't respond well to treatment, and that maybe coaching and peer work might be the way to address that. And I talked with a couple people about, man, we just got to get this going. I'm not sure how it's going to happen. And the timing must be right. Because about 3 years down the road, some Lewis County redneck comes back with an accent that makes him sound even more redneck. And his wife, as always, takes charge of things to get it going. And I think we've got a bright future ahead of us in this county. I want to thank y'all for coming out so that we could share our experience, strength, and hope. Because this is how I stay sober. And I probably talk way longer than I need to. But you are what make this work. It's not the judge, it's not the DA, it's not the sheriff, it's not the search warrant, it's not the counselor. It's one-on-one. It's what I used to call garage time. Have a couple of the guys I would sponsor come over to the house. We sit in the garage and we tell lies. Oh yeah, how big was the fish? Oh, it was like this. Yeah, those kinds of things. But I learned that from the guy that gave me this book. Because in those moments we get to teach and not just instruct. And here's how this kind of wraps up. So I asked, when the speed limit is 55, how fast were your parents driving? And now the question is, when the speed limit is 55, how fast are you driving? And what are your children seeing when they're in the back seat, or your grandchildren? Thanks, folks.